Hey everybody. So I decided. So there was a Okay. The best way to put it is that there was a error in scheduling. So I had to come up with a thing to do this week. So I decided that I was actually gonna bring someone else in for an episode. So this is Gideon. Say hi, Gideon.
Hello. Hi, Gideon.
I didn't have a good image for you. So I just create. So I created one in Sonic Forces. Is going to be the one that sits right there on the screen.
That's fine. That works.
So I decided that I was going to do a little side project that I am going to call Remedial Sonic Lore, which I am dragging you in. So, uh, I pulled up a few pages on the Sonic Wiki, and we're going to talk about some stuff. We're currently sitting on the Sonic the Hedgehog page right now, just for like a start. But one of the really interesting things that uh, is this little neat piece of trivia is that Sonic didn't actually. His first appearance is not in a Sonic game, actually. His first appearance, if I could actually pull it up on Wikipedia, was as a hood ornament in the game Rad Mobile that was also made by Sega, which is very funny.
I did know that. I knew that from a video where someone was in a arcade in Japan and they were going through the Sega arcade games specifically because they heard the theme for Starlight Zone playing on a Sega new UFO catcher,
Huh.
and it was right next to a Radmobile.
So, much like with certain other characters, like I don't know, Mickey Mouse. He started his life out as a rabbit, and then he slowly became a more interesting character.
I learned about the rabbit thing from the intro to Sonic Mania, where they show that as the sketch beginning.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Honestly, I kind of like. I'm one of those people that I've always liked Sonic as a universe. But rarely do I like Sonic as a character. He's a great character, but he's not the thing that draws me into the world. It's always been the weird, tiny things that show up for like a single game and then vanish, you know?
Like the Werehog, Caliburn, all of Riders.
Yeah, effectively. So I wanted to I pulled up 9 pages. Each page is something about the games, something about the comics. I don't know too much about the Fleetway comics to pull them up right now, but I wanted to eventually branch off into those. We might even like do a thing where we like look into the Fleetway comics.
We both
Like,
go in blind.
yeah, uh, I am significantly less blind nowadays, but since I actually know a lot of stuff about it now, but I just haven't read it before.
The only thing I know of Fleetway Sonic is that Super Sonic goes mental.
Yeah, and that's like chapter 7. That's like issue 7.
That's the only thing I know.
Uh, okay, so I pulled up these pages, and I kind of want to go through each one is a game, or at least something from a game, something from a comic, something from a TV show. And we're actually going to talk about some of the stuff that we read on the page, because I still find a lot of the Sonic lore, especially some of the more obscure stuff, very funny. So, first one is the Wisps from Sonic Colors.
Hooray!
So, how much of Sonic Colors do you actually know?
I have played the first three levels from a GameStop demo kiosk for the Wii, and I watched the entirety of Chugga Conroy's playthrough
That
twice.
is fair enough. So, Here, let me just start reading some of the stuff from the anatomy. The wisps do not have any internal organs because they are composed entirely of hypergoon.
Like from Go Onger?
It is a mysterious force that imbues creatures a with an attribute of the creature itself. I'm gonna explain further down, but it actually gets into a really interesting fan theory about these things, like later into this. Overall, they are similar, both in appearance and motion, to underwater cephalopods, such as squids. Physical characteristics all wisps share include a head with tentacles stemming from the bottom of them. Regular wisp has three tentacles each. Their skin color, body shape, number of eyes, ranging from none to three, is determined by their breed. Okay, so
Trying to remember all the breeds. There's like normal, which is for boost. There's rocket, laser. Is it called block or is it called cube? The one that changes the blue ring.
oh my gosh, they just list them as their colors. They don't even list them as their abilities. Lame. Uh,
Uh, there's there's frenzy. I remember frenzy is really cool. Though I think everyone remembers rocket the most.
uh, the black wisp is break, I think. Braku. Um, oh, bomb. That's what they are. They're the
Oh, they're
black
from
wisp is
Sonic Lost World.
yeah. Yeah, they're actually from Lost World, not from that. Blue is cube.
That's what I was thinking. I couldn't remember if it was block or cube. It
Is
just
it?
acts like a P switch.
Forget which crimson is, but I know that the crimson wisps are used for fire attribute stuff. Uh, Scion is the one that zips between things.
The laser.
The gray wisps. I always forget what these ones do. They like show up later into the game, I believe. Uh,
They're
Quake.
from Lost.
Yeah.
You know, I always forget Lost World had wisps in it because,
Yeah,
well,
they
no
have
one
their
played
own
Lost.
wisps because that was the thing that they really wanted to do is that they wanted to have wisps be Sonic's version of Mario power-ups, which if you look at Colors and Lost World, you go, no, they are literally just trying to be a Mario game, and it's very obvious. Wisps are mysterious halcyon, are a mysterious halcyon and social species, and are as much sapient beings as the dominant races on Sonic's world. Rather than aliens, their floating movements are more like fairies by technicality. They have a mother wisp, which, being 8 meters tall and resemble more of a jellyfish with four very long tentacles. That is a mother wisp.
Oh man, I love the ending of Pokemon Sun and Moon.
Yeah. Uh, After Dr. Eggman kidnapped her planets, Mother Wisp was captured by Eggman himself and transformed into uh, negative Mother Wisp, which is a very bad design. I don't like it as much. Reminds me of that one boss from Quarrels of Bahamut.
It reminds me of a Dragon Quest boss.
Huh. Either way, we just return. It's going slow because it has to load in all the ads. Jeez.
And most of those you'll have to censor out when this video goes out.
Uh, Maybe?
I saw a few on the side that you should probably go in and cut.
Yeah.
Honestly, that entire right side of the screen you should probably just delete from the videos afterwards.
Actually, why don't I just grab like little Mongo? Ooh, ooh, there we go.
There you go.
Okay, so if a wisp has its hyper go on taken, it will turn into a primal and violent form known as a negative wisp or dark wisp. However, even with their minds degraded in their dark wisp state, does appear not it does it does appear not appear to impede the wisp's moral compasses. Thanks, wiki
Ah,
editors.
superpositional statements. The quantum wisp.
So the dark wisps are kind of interesting because it once again goes with the boost style Sonic era where every single creature has a dark form. And so Sonic teams up with the good side of them while taking on the evil side of them. The entire race of Wisps has a very loving relationship with Sonic the Hedgehog. To the Wisps, Sonic is their hero. Notably, he is a hero to them due to how he freed them from Dr. Eggman's clutches. As such, they love him dearly. He is also a comrade in arms because he fought with them against Eggman with their color powers, which honestly is kind of a neat thing. I kind of like what they did with the powers. I just feel like that they were a little bit too much, to be honest.
Too much required them.
Okay, so actually, is that yeah? So there is a very in okay, so in Sonic Forces, Wisp capsules containing wisps can be found all over the planet. When the war broke out, the Wisp capsule encased wisps were used by the Resistance and their allies to combat Eggman's army. During the war, a new type of weapon was created called a Wispin. The Wispins are different weapons that could harness a Wisp's color powers. So effectively, instead of Sonic becoming a drill, a orange wisp is funneled into the weapon, and then its drill ability is utilized through the weapon. This is then later used in the comics uh, by basically the exact same thing. They just load people up on weapons, and depending on which weapon it is, they get different qualities based off of those weapons, which is kind of neat.
Reminds me of almost like beam switching in Metroid games.
A little bit. Okay, so there is an interesting aspect with the way that Hyper Go On works as a power source. So, the way that it's described several times is there is Hyper Go On appears to be incompatible with the power of the Chaos Emeralds. During the Wisp incident, aka Colors, Sonic could not tap into any Hyper Go On energy if he had a Chaos Emerald on him. And during the Lost Hex incident, which is Lost World, activating a color power would automatically shut off a Chaos Emerald's power. So in a way, it's basically a it is almost like the wisps have negative chaos energy.
Makes me wonder if they would also shut down other emeralds like Master Emerald, the Super Emeralds, the Soul Emerald.
Yeah, I heard someone say that wisps technically are lawful creatures because they have an ability, they follow that ability, and they do not deviate from that ability. It makes them lawful creatures. And I'm like, that is a fascinating way of referring to them, which I've never really thought about until like a little bit ago. But there is actually something really fascinating about the idea that a creature can be given a power source from a creature that is law. And it's kind of neat because I saw that there was a pretty interesting fan theory that wisps and the black arms uh that created Shadow are were once the same race because they have similar aspects, but there is also something interesting about the fact that when the Black Arms interact with a Chaos Emerald, they can't use the energy properly. So they needed something to utilize the Chaos Emeralds, which is why they needed Shadow to be created. And I'm like, that is neat. I hope that's actually like I hope that that's actually something that can connect, but oftentimes that is not the case. A fan theory can only go so far, you know?
So now I'm curious. Like, let's say you had Shadow go evil again,
Yeah.
and he ends up getting the Chaos Emeralds. He's going supersonic. Sonic's not around. Would it be possible to somehow force like the Wisps to like pump Hyper Go on into Shadow to forcibly take him out of Superman?
It is interesting that now that they've introduced a negative chaos energy to the equation, you could effectively use it as a way to mitigate the hyper powered creatures that Sonic likes to hang around, you know? And I do wonder if it would work that way, where it's like Sonic is going super, and then like Eggman loads up drill into a gun and shoots him in the chest with it, and it knocks the super out of him.
Probably be less horrific than the electrocution scene from Unleashed.
Uh, so that let's move on to the second one. Uh, okay. So
Oh god.
how much of the Sonic comics do you personally know?
Not a lot. It was not a thing I had. I didn't have a comic shop in my town until 2016. Because we had the card shop that started in 2011, but they didn't get comics in until 2016, and I never really went out of town. So
So, the Brotherhood of Guardians is very fascinating. I was mentioning a little bit of this to you, but you need to actually understand the extent of how weird of a concept this is. So, the Brotherhood of Guardians is an organization of echidnas from the Archie comics who are an older group of former guardians protecting Angel Island that are all related to each other in some way, that are at Haven, which is their base, with the primary aim to act as a secret organization from behind, uh, out of the view of most people. But what they actually are is they are trying to make the next generation of Guardians get into a position where they can actually do the most good effectively. And it is kind of funny how, okay, so the entire idea behind this group is that they are literally just a monitor organization to cut back to in the comics to talk about what's going on in cryptic ways. You know?
Okay. Like, what do you mean cryptic ways?
Uh here, let me just they literally just sit around a table and just talk. And they just talk about things. I can't look at I can't look at Knuckles' legs in that image for too long. It's distressing to me. uh
What's wrong with them?
it's just weird. Uh although I will say that out of all of the designs of the members of the Brotherhood, which is here's a good shot of like most of them. I'm gonna just say
Damn, those eyebrows are damn.
my favorite one is Thunderhawk, who looks like that he's scaled. It's kind of a neat
There's
aesthetic. I
no
love it.
way that is his name.
His name
What
is
is with these
Thunderhawk.
names?
Yeah.
Okay, do all of the echidnas just have hyper edgy names?
Uh, Tobor, Spectre, Sojourner, Thunderhawk, um, Aether, Saber, and Locke.
Wow. They are all edge lords, and I thought Shadow was bad.
I do kind of like how you can tell which family they're from by if they're named after, by what they're named after. Whether or not they're named after. So you have Spectre being from one family, Sojourner being from another family, and it's like it's kind of neat how it's like you can actually like connect up certain other characters' names and naming conventions based off of how they are named. It's like, huh. But yeah,
Hmm.
so many Guardians have been part of the Brotherhood, but in present day, Knuckles remains the sole active member. The reason why is because a lot of them just disappeared. So, one of the reasons why I wanted to do this is because of this section down here. Uh,
I
continuity.
don't like that I'm seeing continuity errors and it's taking up more than half of the screen.
Okay, back in the letters pages of Knuckles comic number 21, a fan asked a question about listing Knuckles' relatives in order up to Hawking. It states that the father of Knuckles is Locke, Locke's father is Saber, Saber's father is Althea, and Althea's mother is Janelle, the first and only female guardian, the daughter of Thunderhawk, and Thunderhawk's father is Sojourner, who is a child of Spectre. Tobor, the father of Spectre, is the son of Hawking. So all of these people are all related to each other in a chain, and they're all like immortal effectively by this sort of like viewpoint. They're all a succession of father to son that are basically they're immortals. So when they retire, they just basically sit in that room and do nothing, which is very funny. So, which is in Knuckles issue 29, Spectre gives a roll call introduction to Princess Sally, stating that his son is Sojourner and Thunderhawk is his grandson. It wasn't until the Sonic data banks that it was changed around the Sojourner being the son of Thunderhawk, and for some as to reasons why this change was made, nobody is quite sure. So
Hmm.
basically,
Okay, so they just flipped Sojourner and Thunderhawk.
yeah, a lot of them are related to each other, yes, in this line. Look. Okay, so confusion once again arose in the letter pages of Sonic 121 when asked the order of birth. The editor responded, "For the record, the order goes Spectre, Sojourner, Thunderhawk, Janelle, Altair, Saber, Locke, then Knuckles. For those keeping track at home." When asked about this, the writer Ian Flynn responded, "I'm gonna have to go over it all again to see if there's a nuisance somewhere so we can nail it down. We will eventually settle it in stone." It's like that,
Well, at least they're working on fixing it.
but it is really funny how this is what happens when you specifically write in that characters are effectively immortal and all kind of just sitting around and being important for a story is that you don't really have a set line. And that's sort of what happens. Okay. One of those names is Altair, which is this mystical shaman guy, which is incredibly funny because one of the interesting things about the echidnas is there is a level of dynamic between technology and faith. And it is kind of neat how you can figure out what side a character is on based on like how they are. I'm trying to think of a good way to say it. It's you can tell what side they're on by how much tech they surround themselves with. And a lot of echidnas will either be highly tech or highly faith. And rarely do they cross over. Like for instance, Knuckles even if I remember correctly, even to this day, in the actual games, they try to adhere to the idea that he is not very good with technology and he just does not know how to work certain things. Meanwhile, you have certain other members that are like actually using like tech to keep themselves alive. And we'll go over one of those characters later, but it is kind of neat how you can assume that all of the Brotherhood of Guardians are all faith-based because they are all called the um by the Emerald to serve as its protector, which is kind of neat. Rarely do they ever actually like
So the Emerald themselves calls, even though it's traditionally just been father son.
it is father son, but the whole idea is that they are using the concept of the Emerald calls us to protect it as a way of explaining why they're protecting it effectively.
But we know that the Master Emerald is a sentient thing.
Yes, but it's also not the thing that is granting them power. It's
So what is?
uh 1 second.
Because now I'm very confused. If they're not actually being called by the Emerald to protect it,
Okay, what? I was trying to remember which I also like how there's just Aaron. There's just Aaron,
there he
normal
is.
guy Aaron. Uh so
Probably a loser.
so Althir is,
Edmund.
yeah, Edmund. He's Dimitri's brother. It's very funny. Uh so Althir, the reason why he retires is because he becomes uh the speaker for the walkers, which the ancient walkers are quote unquote the real like gods of their universe. I'm not even kidding. Like these three weirdos are effectively like the Echidna Trinity. It's very
Why has
funny.
he got a Mitsubishi logo as a necklace?
I don't know, but yeah. Uh,
Why do the gods of the universe have drip?
but the idea is that these creatures are made of chaos energy, and they basically just sit in an extra dimensional realm. Which one does it actually say that they live in? I can't act right. They basically just like exist, and whenever something important happens, these three that are literally referred to as dinosaurs uh will step in and basically Deus Ex Machina a lot of events. These are the people that are telling the Brotherhood how to conduct themselves. So it's very funny that you have three gods who don't want to do anything telling a Brotherhood of Guardians to not do anything.
Hmm.
So at I mentioned this to you the other day, but the quote that always comes to mind whenever I think of Haven as a Haven and the Brotherhood of Guardians, I always just think of the Linkara clip where he's just saying, "Should we do something? We should do something," and it's just like just playing in the background every single time that they refuse to do anything. But yeah, it is kind of neat how when you realize that these are all actually just relate that these are a long list of father son connectors from the earliest guardian whose name is Edmund. He looks like an absolute dweeb
Hmm. Wait, why? Okay, so why does Edmund wear very scientific-looking gear, but his descendants are all tribal?
because Steppenwolf was one of the first ones to be without tech. Because after Edmund, uh, all of the Guardians swore off using technology because of what happened to his brother. We could skip to his brother right now if you want to, or we can wait a little bit.
I'm scared.
Okay. So, uh, Dimitri is a very cool character. He later on he just becomes a head in the jar. But
Squid,
yeah.
you
So,
gotta be squidding me.
yeah. So Dimitri is the brother of Edmund. The brothers devised a means to restore the floating island to Mobius's surface using a chaos siphon, which is basically just a device that he wears to draw in energy, hold it into a container, and then put it somewhere else. To slowly drain the power of 12 entire Chaos Emeralds, which held the island aloft, until it landed back at the original site on the planet's surface. Before they could devise the plan, deliver their plan, Dimitri and Edmund confronted a high counselor in an attempt to gain his support. However, he realized that if the plan went through, Dimitri would be considered a hero, and that could upset his own plans and ambitions for politics, and thus he denounced the plan as heresy. So he denied the brothers' petition. Enraged by this, Dimitri decided to take actions into his own hands using the Chaos Siphon, uh, and uses it to drain 11 of those 12 Chaos Emeralds. Uh, but when he did that, all of that energy went straight into him.
So, question.
Yes.
Uh, you keep mentioning 12 Chaos Emeralds.
Yes.
Call me a boomer, but I'm pretty sure there's only 7 Chaos Emeralds.
Okay. So back back during early depictions of the story, there were multiple Master Emeralds.
That's not confusing.
And these greater emeralds, which again in old Sonic lore, back during like the early comics, all of the emeralds were green. So the idea of the Master Emerald is that it was this massive green emerald that the Echidna tribes were keeping hold of. Does that make sense?
Sort of.
So out of all the emeralds, you have uh you have these 12 Chaos Emeralds, and 11 of them got depowered, and eventually the 11 of those Chaos Emeralds left were shoved into the remaining Chaos Emerald, and it created the Master Emerald, which is why it's so powerful.
Okay. So, 12 became 11, which then became the Master Emerald, which then spawned 7 more.
Uh, the regular emeralds were able to be found very easily, like everywhere, but when um the methodology of how the 7 Chaos Emeralds were created is actually its own story in and of itself. So, when Sonic went into space, long story, he went to other planets, and on other
Yeah,
planets
the
were
Metarect.
uh he found other colored emeralds. For instance, the red emeralds gave him a lot of chaos energy, but he couldn't control it. And then he found like blue ones, and then the sun had the yellow one. Uh, but it is kind of fascinating because the way okay, so what happened is there was a plan to grab all of the Chaos Emeralds from the entire solar system and bring them all to one place. And because of this, you had a bunch of emeralds, all 7 of the colors, all in one spot. Because of this, they needed somewhere for those emeralds to go. So they just shoved all of them into a place that was known as the Zone of Silence. And when they did that, the person who was in the Zone of Silence took all the emeralds and shoved them all into one form so that they were able to be more closely, like, monitored, which is very funny. Where it's like, wait, is that how the Chaos Emeralds got formed? That is our story. We're sticking to it. Like, oh,
This is
okay.
goofy.
But yeah, before there was just a bunch of green emeralds all over the place, and now there is a singular green emerald. But the interesting thing is that the Master Emeralds did not actually get grabbed during all of that, which means that the Master Emerald still is this infinite source of magic that is completely tangential to any of the powers from the regular emeralds.
Which Sonic cannot use for some reason.
Yeah, Sonic cannot use the Master Emerald. Well, technically he can't. An it is still a chaos source, but he can't use it as well as the regular emeralds. Because using the regular emeralds is just far uh, far more powerful than actually just trying to use the Master Emerald. Because the last time a Sonic used the Master Emerald to try to use powers, he was permanently stained green, so you could figure out uh, which one of the tried to do the foolish decision of trying to grab the Master Emerald.
Gurge.
Yeah. Okay. So because of that, Dimitri became superpowered, virtually omnipotent, and had no compunctions about harming others. Which, honestly, I don't think he ever had uh, empathy for others, to be honest. Knowing how he was afterwards. So Dimitri becomes a entity known as Enerjack, which is an incredibly powerful echidna with the power of a Master Emerald inside of his body.
He looks like the power-up armors thing from Sonic and the Black Knight.
Kind of. So after Edmund defeated Enerjack and basically shunted him off into. Oh, right. So, okay, so the way that he was defeated was that he was basically crushed underneath ruins after his
Mm.
power was taken out. And because these two brothers and all of their lineage are now immortal, they they can never die. So Dimitri just basically sits underneath the ruins for like decades, just not doing anything, just being alive.
Eventually, cars stopped thinking.
Uh, and Edmund's son Steppenwolf uh would become the next guardian, and Dimitri's son Menaker becomes the first leader of the Dark Legion, which is
And
the
those are the
group of
people who are trying
echidnas that
to.
like technology.
Oh, so they're the scientist ones that we see in like in some of the other backstories, like Finidivus?
Yeah, they are. Uh, Oftentimes they just run around in cloaks and use guns. Like literally, just they just use regular guns. And one one of the interesting parts about Dimitri, though, is okay. So Dimitri, when he eventually comes back, uh, is in dire need of medical assistance. It looks like this for a while, where he's
And
just
food and
a robot.
therapy.
It looks like a robot.
He's fine. He just invented roboticization.
Uh, so
They Phyrexianed him.
a little. Is his name really Benedicto? What? Nah. Okay.
How could we ever think that Benedicto would betray us?
Yeah. Dimitri's plot was ultimately foiled by Knuckles. Later, he transported everyone on Angel Island into the Twilight Zone, uh, using a quantum beam in order to retake his homeland without resistance or casualties. Just shunted everyone off into another dimension so no one gets hurt. Uh, These effects were reversed, however, by Chaos Knuckles, who temporarily aligned himself with the Legion in order to gain insight from Dimitri of how to use his powers. I kid you not. Chaos Knuckles is literally Knuckles, but now he's green because he's got the Master Emerald inside of him. It is
Huh.
yeah. He eventually uses his power so much he dies. I kid you not. Knuckles uses his power so much he just dies.
A kid knew you not.
So, when Dimitri's health took a turn for the worse and he was completely immobilized and connected to a life support machine to keep him alive, his I forget what their relationship is. Is it his daughter? Oh my gosh, there's so many relatives. Ah, yeah, great great granddaughter. Jeez. Uh, let me just go back to where it was. Eh, there it is. Yeah, his great great granddaughter, Linda, assisted him in a plan to convince Knuckles to use his immense powers to give Dimitri a new life. Firm in his belief that the Dark Legion must reunify with the rest of the Echidna society, he made Linda promise to continue his policies should he die. Uh,
Is it Linda or is it Linda?
it's Linda. It's because the last syllable of a female echidna's name is emphasized, so there was a hyphen there.
Hmm. Because it's
Yeah,
like I keep hearing Linda, which makes sense,
yeah,
but like it's supposed to be Linda, you know?
yeah. It's supposed to be like the name Linda, but the final syllable of da needs to be pronounced with emphasis. So it's Linda. It's eh. With being immobilized, this left him vulnerable to being supplanted by his descendants. Following his return, Linda blankly stated that Dimitri is no longer with us, which is very funny because he's still not dead at this point.
He
Dimitri
he died on
resurfaced.
his way back.
Yeah. Dimitri surfaced sometime later, grudgingly tricking Locke into leaving the Master Emerald in all of Angel Island in the care of Dr. Finitivis, which I'm gonna just say right now, uh, man, if you are the type of person, if you're the type of person to leave your organization in the care with a man who looks like this, you're destined to not do too well. Where it's just like, oh yeah, I trust this guy with my child. It's like no. Although it is kind of interesting. I might bring it up later, but there was actually a long history of evil scientist white echidnas in Sonic comics. It is very funny how it keeps popping up every once in a while. But yeah, that is the story of why Knuckles' four times great grandfather is in a floating ball and uses electronic dread tentacles to walk around on.
I don't like that. I'm uncomfortable about that.
But yeah,
Do not
honest
walk on.
Dimitri is one of the more interesting echidna characters in the comics. And it is a neat character. It just takes so long for him to actually get any type of showing at all in the story. It literally takes for the entirety of the end of Knuckles' run of his solo comic for him to become an interesting character, which is insane to think about. So, let's move on to one of the TV show ones. You are aware of this character, I assume. This is Styx the Badger. uh, Styx the Badger is a character who was introduced in Sonic Boom, and she has remained there for a while.
Hmm.
Yeah, Styx is a badger, slightly shorter than Amy, with orange fur, and uh,
But you're forgetting the most important part of her character.
yeah,
She's a conspiracy nut.
yes.
She believes the entirety of the government is out specifically for her, even though she's no one.
Okay. Uh, there it is. Styx is an energetic, free-spirited, and primal character. She has sharp animal instincts, a fearsome combatant, and a tenacious hunger that will enter a feral frenzy when she is angry. Because of her isolated life as a kid, Styx has become an off-kilted, obtuse, uh, and nut job. Uh, she often thinks that others are living in an alternate world different to the normal one, something that unnerves friends and enemies alike. While Styx recognizes that she is insane, she does not like having herself and her ideas written off as crazy by default, as she is often turns out to be right. Uh, where was it? Oh man, I love it when ads push everything down. Cool, very 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 cool.
Isn't it great?
Okay, Styx's social skills need plenty of work, as she always speaks her mind, even if it comes as socially uncalibrated. Her wildness sometimes gets her into trouble during social situations. Styx is not the most trusting individual, and she is full of out. Stop it. Uh, outrageous. Dang it! I lost my space. Styx is not the most trusting individual and is full of outrageous suspicions and paranoia. Through her instinctive skepticism, Austin turns out to be a little bit accurate. She is very superstitious, senses danger and conspiracies everywhere, which leaves her in a state of constant stress. She also exhibits uh, personality traits based on various conspiracy theorist stereotypes in that she suspects that the government of being behind a lot of shady activities, including mind controlling the public, and often thinks about toppling it. As such, she has equipment prepared for even the oddest situations. Styx is also one who believes in speaking the truth and cannot stand the real stories being withheld. Despite her dislike of lies, however, she is not a snitch. That is one way to put it.
That's so dumb.
But yeah, one of the reasons why she was added into the plot of Sonic Boom, it really does feel like, is that they needed another feminine character to stick out in a group of five. They needed someone that can match Knuckles' like strength, and they needed someone who would be a weird foil to Tails. And it is kind of an interesting idea that she is the antithesis of all of the other members of the team, you know, with how she is. Yeah, her she is a tool using character, so she's got like a lot of like weapons, but she mostly just uses a boomerang because she's Australian.
Technically, she's Tasmanian.
Yeah, which is interesting considering that uh she's a badger, not a Tasmanian tiger, but okay. I honestly think that they were going to make her a Tasmanian tiger, but uh, I guess they wanted to go with an actual like real world creature that still exists. I guess. Oh my gosh. Well, Amy helps Styx adapt to civilization. Styx, in turn, is willing to go to the extremes to protect Amy, even though she doubts her. In fact, when Lyric kidnaps Amy, Styx immediately took off to save her without a plan or clue. By the way, have you ever seen the main villain of Sonic Boom?
Lyric?
Yeah,
Isn't he like a snake in a diving helmet?
yeah. It's a very weird design that I don't really like as much. I feel like li Lyric, the last ancient, is kind of a bad character design. And no wonder people kind of forget he exists, you know?
He's just a goofy little guy. He does nothing. He means nothing.
Oh, here it is. On her part, Styx sees Eggman as a reasonable threat, having underlined how his robots destroy everything and supposedly put songs in people's head that they cannot forget. She also does not trust the Doctor under normal circumstances when he claims that he is not up to something, notably even less than her friends, and instead suspects that he has an evil scheme in play, which is usually correct. In spite of that, Styx still thinks that Eggman himself is a total joke. Because of her consistent victories over him, Styx has a tendency to underestimate him somehow. So, one of the actually kind of interesting fan dynamics that is oftentimes like brought up in fan circles is the fact that Styx probably would get along with Dr. Eggman well. Uh
Well, they do in the show.
as in Styx would actually like treat him with a little bit like more of like okay, so the way that it was described is that she doesn't like Eggman, she likes Gerald because Gerald uh was just trying to do his job and then was mercilessly killed uh, by a governmental force. So clearly he's not the bad guy. And I do like how even though there's absolutely nothing in Sonic Boom that even remotely brings up Gerald, I love how many people try to connect the dots to Styx and the work of Gerald. And so every once in a while it will come up in something and it's like, you know, she might actually like Gerald Robotnik. Like I would not put it past her, actually.
Well, they're both against the government.
Which it is kind of funny how I did see someone bring up a one of those like shipping chart type things where it's like how likely is it for a character pairing to work? And someone said Shadow and Styx. They have not met each other often. Reasons why it could work. They both have an odd reference for Gerald, and I was thinking about them like it would actually be kind of fascinating if they would bond over like looking into some of Gerald's research, you know?
Mostly her trying to figure out things to destroy the world.
Hmm. Okay, so let's move on to another game topic. So, I don't think you've played Sonic Heroes. Or at least if you have, you
I
haven't
have.
played.
I've beaten it.
You have? Huh.
I beat all four stories.
So, in the final story of Sonic Heroes, the main villain is revealed to be Neo Metal Sonic, not to be confused with regular Metal Sonic. He is actually a different character. So, prior to Sonic Heroes, Metal Sonic assumed the form of Neo Metal Sonic as he sought to destroy Sonic on his own to conquer the world himself, as he held the key to destroy the world. To this end, he betrayed Dr. Eggman, took control of the Eggman Empire, and began seeking out data he needed for him to transform into his perfected form. To achieve this, Neo Metal needed to copy the life form data of other beings. Using his shape-shifting abilities to pass as the real Sonic, Neo Metal would kidnap both Froggy and Chicola. I don't think Chicola like ever returned after Sonic Heroes, in order to obtain data on Chaos. as an entity, which to be fair is actually a really great call that I don't hear a lot. You know, where it's like, oh yeah, Froggy still has some of Chaos's DNA in him. It's like, huh.
Yeah, 'cause he still has the tail.
Uh, when the separate teams begin their adventures, Neo Metal would cross paths with the various groups, on occasion in the guise of Dr. Eggman, and get life form data he needed from them. By the time Team Dark and Team Sonic defeated the Egg Albatross, Neo Metal had successfully copied Shadow's data, and all of the teams with it. When Team Rose defeats Neo Metal Sonic in the as the Egg Emperor, he had copied the he had successfully copied Chaos's data as well, making him release Froggy and Chocola from captivity. With all the data he needs, Neo Metal reveals himself to the heroes and destroyed the final fortress tower before using its own debris to transform into the Metal Overlord, which is him as a giant metal dragon, which is amazingly cool. I love this design so much. It is very cool.
I mean, I would not say no to an HD like upscaling of it, but to me, with the GameCube's graphics, it just looks like hooray polygons.
Yeah. So, once he is defeated by Team Sonic, powered up through the Chaos Emeralds, uh, Neo Metal reverts all the way back to regular Metal Sonic, Sonic promising to rematch him anytime. So, it is actually kind of fascinating how much love Neo Metal Sonic has in the fan base, actually. It's actually pretty cool how much love this particular design has. And he doesn't really show up in other games too often, but having him around is kind of neat.
How do we feel about him in being a part of the next?
Hmm?
How do we feel about Metal Sonic being in the next movie? Do we think Metal Overlord's gonna happen?
I I would not be opposed to Metal Overlord happening, but there are so many steps in place that would have to get there. But I honestly think what they might do is the final battle might be all of the Metal Sonics coming together to be the giant Metal Dragon, even if Neo Metal does not show up.
Hmm.
So, this is one of the neat things. Super Neo Metal Sonic. So, if you're unaware, Metal Sonic a um is basically a carbon copy scan of Sonic, who has all of his potential, even the ability to actually go super, which is something that Neo Metal does in the comics. Which is
So
yeah.
my thing is, what part of the lore? Because I know this is part of the lore for Metal Sonic. At what part of the lore is it established that Metal Sonic starts to believe that he is the original and is not a created being in the guise of Sonic? Because that's a lot of his driving factor in his later appearances
It is
is that
really
he believes he's the original Sonic.
I know that in the Sonic OVA, it was actually brought up because he mentions it in the Sonic OVA that he thinks that he's Sonic because it is a complete scan of Sonic, which includes all of his memories and all of his uh whatever it's called. All of his
Hmm.
qualities are also added to it. Oh my gosh, I forgot about Kai. Metal Sonic Kai from Knuckles Chaotix. I do actually wonder where it originated from, if not the OVA.
Also, are there any other games besides Sonic R in which Metal Sonic is a playable character?
Uh, he's playable in Sonic Adventure 1 and 2.
Really?
When you were doing multiplayer time trial like modes, you can select Metal Sonic and Amy
I
as
wouldn't consider that. That's not like the main story. That's a side mode. That's like saying Metal Knuckles exists because he's in the Shadow the Hedgehog side story with multiplayer battles.
in Sonic Adventure 1, you can once you get 100% in the game, you can go back into Sonic's levels as Metal Sonic and you could run around as Metal Sonic, which is basically
Hmm.
just a reskin of Metal Sonic.
Yeah, just
He's
an Easter egg.
he's also in Sonic the Fighters, which also technically doesn't count. He's one of the stories in Sonic Rivals, I believe. I can't remember if he is specifically only part of Sonic's story or if he actually has a side story of his own.
I just wanted like a side story where you just play like imagine if you could play through a quote unquote prequel story of everything of you running ahead as Metal Sonic just ruining everything, and then whatever you do is being undone by the heroes on their way to get you. You know,
Yeah. Yeah, I still have no idea what Sonic Speed Simulator is. Oh, it's on Roblox. No wonder. Uh but they recently added
like Sonic Speed Simulator is the game.
uh yeah, it's a thing in Roblox that recently got an update for you to fight Neo Metal Sonic in, and it's kind of neat.
Hmm.
Okay. So, let's go into uh another like animated Sonic piece of lore. So, are you aware of the Metarex as a race? I know you've said the name earlier, but do you actually know what they are?
The Metarex, they're like they sure are. Like
Yes,
they're always listed as robotic, but they're not robotic. They have organic insides when their armor's broken off.
yeah. I do kind of like
They look
how
like weird bison people.
you can definitely tell that they are inspired. That they are inspired a little bit off of like 70s mecha designs.
They do feel a bit like Ultraman 7.
Oh my gosh, is that actually what they're called? Okay. So you have the leader of the Metarex, which his name is Dark Oak, deceased.
Yeah, because
Uh,
they're tree people because they're the same race as Cosmos.
yeah. You would then have Pale Bayleaf, Black Narcissus, Yellow Zelikova, and Red Pine, and that's these guys. Uh, Look at these guys; they're so dumb looking. Okay. The Metarex are an army of robotic marauders equipped with a highly advanced and powerful weaponry. They traverse the galaxy stealing planet eggs and other objects of power, leaving the whole world's uh, dead or dying in their wake. Among their victims is Cosmo's homeworld, along with every member of her species except for her. They also implanted Cosmo with a hidden sensor in her brain, making her an unwilling spy in this whole thing. The Metarex have a plan known as Operation Duplicate. A large part of this plan involves creating fake Chaos Emeralds, with the power of the
Yeah,
original
the
Emeralds.
Metarex arc is my favorite arc of Sonic X. It is
Yeah,
I like as much as people make fun of it. I think as soon as Sonic X stopped dealing with Chris Thorndike and then stopped rehashing all of Sonic Adventure 1 and 2 and did its own thing with the Metarex arc, it went into its own. The characters were better, the writing was better, the adventures were more interesting, the environments were varied and cool. Like we got the stuff with Metal or not Metal Sonic, Dark Supersonic and Eggman having to be the one to admonish him, being like, I've known you for a long time, Sonic. You're not one to lose your temper like that. You should be careful. You get too angry like that, and it's all you'll ever feel.
yeah. So
Plus,
the
there's a part where Shadow tells Tails to shut up and then punches him.
so their plan involves using chaos energy to mutate planet eggs, growing them to unusual size, uh, wiping out all non-plant life in the universe, leaving plants to rule. The leaders of the Metarex are, in truth, the male members of Cosmos' kind. The robotic-like shells were created by using planet egg energy from their own planet for the result of a crystallized evolution. So they're not actually metal, they're actually just crystallized. But any chemist can actually tell you that a metal is a crystal, but whatever. Uh, Dark Oak and his commanders are the only Metarex who are not entirely mechanical. While their soldiers are automatons, the commanders are simply just encased in thick armor. But yeah, so these guys are big dumb plant creatures, and I kind of like them.
I think my favorite part about them is just the ideas they had for them as like, what if Sonic goes up against beings whose whole shtick is that they don't care? They're just like, oh, it's Sonic. Okay, like shouldn't we be worried? He's strong. No. Oh. Uh. Okay.
I do kind of like
I guess we're just not worried about Sonic.
how the Metarex almost come off as an anti-Sentai team a little bit. It is kind of funny. Also, Dark Oak is the shortest of all of his subordinates, which is also very funny.
He's just a little manlin. Probably why he's angry all the time.
Oh man, I love the design of their ships, which
Right? It feels like they took bosses from Space Harrier and were like, hey, this is Sega.
I mean, to be
That was
fair,
about the only thought they had was
Yeah, look at this thing. It's so cool looking. It's almost like a trilobite. Kind of like them.
I guess there's something a little cool about them being like almost fish-like.
Which is it almost feels kind of weird that it's like, oh hey, they're fish, and the things inside of them are trees.
Crystal trees.
Okay, another Sonic game. We're actually going to talk about the plot of a lesser-known Sonic game,
Tails Sky Patrol.
Sonic Shuffle.
Oh god, I have heard of this game because of the carbuncle ate itself. What does that even mean?
So, this game was developed with assistance of Hudson Soft.
Oh god, didn't they make Hey You Pikachu?
Did Hudson Soft make Hey You Pikachu? I can't remember. I think they did, or at least helped with it. Yeah, mostly known for the Mario Party games, and
Oh
also
yeah.
Bomberman 64.
I loved Bomberman 64.
Hudson Soft is responsible. I love how it says responsible for Adventure Island.
The implication of like it is their fault. You can blame them.
Okay, so Imaginary World is a world set in an alternate dimension where dreams and reality coexist with each other. This world is
Klonoa.
maintained by Precious Stone, one word, uh, a gemstone formed by the hopes and dreams of people from other dimensions. However, the Precious Stone has been shattered into various smaller precious stones by a monster known as Void. Here is Void.
That's just his name.
Yeah.
Hmm. He sure is a thing.
If you don't know, these are what Cosmos's race are based on in terms
Really?
of design.
Huh.
In order to save his dimension, Lumina Flow Light, the Guardian Fairy. This is what she looks like. I've seen art of her. I saw art of her before I knew that she was a Sonic character. She looks a lot more
She looks like a Knights character.
she looks more like a Knights character. She looks more like a Space Channel 5 character. She
She looks
doesn't
like if Samurai Pizza Cat.
indeed she looks as if she was Samurai Pizza Cats. Lumina sends a message to various worlds to find a hero who is strong and brave enough to restore Imaginary World. The message eventually reached Sonic. He, Tails, Amy, and Knuckles were soon transported up to the Temple of Light, the former resting place of the Precious Stone, which, uh, what a trusting location. I would trust that location with my life. Definitely does not look like
It's
a creepy wood hand.
it looks like the final area of Half-Life, which I
Lumina
am forgetting the name entirely right now.
Zen.
That's the name.
Lumina shows up and introduces herself. She explains why they were brought here and what has happened to the Precious Stone. She also then explains that the protector of the gem, Illumina, which is a giant her, the goddess of dreams, lost her powers and vanished into a faraway world when Void shattered the Precious Stone. Learning that Lumina's plight and the doom awaiting Imaginary World, Sonic, Tails, Amy, and Knuckles agree to help save Imaginary World to stop Void. The five of them then set up to gather the smaller precious stones which had been scattered to the far corners of Madrigal. However, they are unaware that Dr. Eggman has learned of the precious stone and has followed Sonic and his friends into the world. Receiving a deck of magical cards.
I love Yu-Gi-Oh.
But by the way, can I just say, this render of Sonic gets used so much in redrawn art, like like for real.
Well, it's like the Sonic art, you know?
Receiving a deck of cards, Sonic and his gang start their adventure in Emerald Coast. However, this
Receiving a
place
deck of cards, Sonic starts to lose his memories and has to make his way through Castle Oblivion.
this place being a victim of Void's dark powers, causing it to slowly turn cold into an icy world. After finding precious stones, the heroes have a dream where they meet a confused Void who is confronted by Lumina. Returning into reality, the heroes find themselves on a restored coastline. Continuing onwards, the group arrive in Firebird. Firebird.
That's a cool name.
A world of freedom, which has been contained in a wingless plane, causing it to lose speed and altitude. After connecting the smaller precious stones, they have another brief dream where they confront Void, and after that, Firebird is restored. Sonic and his team
Hooray.
continue towards Nature Zone. Ooh, nature.
These names, oh boy.
Due to Void's doings, however, this world is slowly being destroyed. After finding the smaller precious stones, Sonic and his friends have another dream where they meet Illumina, who says that she dreams of making Magic World a beautiful world of light. Nice. Their dreams then move to a vision of Lumina confronting a confused Void once again. And after that, the Sonic's group wake up to see that Nature Zone is regenerating. The group then proceeds to Riot Train.
What?
Riot Train.
What a name.
However, Void's powers have caused the world's train to be thrown on it to a crash course. After meeting Void again in yet another dream, Sonic's team stops the train before it can crash. Lumina and Sonic Gang go to fourth dimensional space,
Oh my
where
god.
the last smaller precious stones are. After getting them, however, they spot Void heading towards the Temple of Light, where he reassembled where the reassembled precious stones are. When the heroes get there, Lumina tries to confront Void about his actions, although the latter states that he only wants friends and to be whole, which is why he tried to get the precious stone. Beginning to question his existence, Void's sadness reaches its peak, and he turns into a gigantic monster. The gigantic monster looks like it came straight out of like one of the one of the PS1 Square Enix games. I mean, look at that.
I mean, it looks cool. I can't wait for him to be weak to like frost.
Ah, okay. After a heated battle, Sonic and his friends defeat Void, who is turned into a dark gem. However, a sad Lumina sees that the light has not returned to the Precious Stone. Just as she is about to about loses hope about dreams and imaginary world's future, Sonic picks up the Void Gem. From it, Void asks Lumina why she hates him and if they are if they are both the same. Having deduced that void represents anger, sadness, despair, and emptiness, which are emotions that make dreams even stronger, Sonic and his friends tell Lumina that void is one of the reasons why dreams exist. Understanding that void's presence is a necessity and does not destroy dreams, Lumina picks herself up, thanking Sonic and his friends for helping her see the light amidst her dark emotions. Lumina reintroduces Void's gem into the Precious Stone, thus restoring Void. So, did you get all that?
Goofy aw game.
So, she explains that she originally split into Lumina and Void when she lost sight of her own dreams, and Lumina reveals that she learned that emptiness does not conquer dreams. So, effectively, what they're saying is that this entity right here, Illumina, is Lumina and Void put together.
I guess that makes sense. It's dumb.
Yeah. If you didn't know, the game is a Mario Party
Oh,
knockoff.
I know. I remember. I remember it from the Carbuncle 8 itself.
It's not that interesting of a game,
Is it
but
canon?
hmm,
Is it canon?
technically, I can't remember. I believe they mention Imaginary World in one other game, and I can't remember which one it is.
Hmm.
Sonic Shuffle's artificial intelligence has been regarded as too advanced for the setting it pertains to. If the CPU characters are set to easy difficulty, it'll still perform at a hard difficulty setting. For example, the CPU will steal good cards from player, outperform in minigames, and always get the selected card number in battle. Many fans say that the computer's artificial intelligence makes the game more fun, as there is a challenge not present in other games.
Hmm.
Okay.
Boy,
Uh,
do I love challenge, says the Elden Ring players.
Sonic Shuffle received mixed reviews from critics, holding a 54% on Metacritic.
Damn.
Oh, if the Dreamcast internal clock is set to December 24th of any year, Knights will replace Lumina in Versus mode.
She is just a Knight's character.
This is
I
also the
knew it.
only game to have Knuckles voiced by Ryan Drummond.
Thought he was always voiced by him.
No, he at this point in the adventure games, he was mostly voiced by Dan Green. Or at least he was
I'm
voiced
Dan
by
Green.
him in Sonic X and definitely in Shadow the Hedgehog.
We love the Pharaoh.
This is the second game where Super Sonic is uh, considered a different character from Sonic, and two can be played simultaneously. The first was Sonic R.
Yep.
This is the first time Chow have appeared as a playable character outside the Chow Garden. They they would appear playable again a year later in Sonic Adventure 2.
Hmm.
Sonic Shuffle is the only Dreamcast game that does not have a representing storyline in the Sonic X anime series, nor did it receive a fully fledged adaptation in the Archie comics, although it did receive a small teaser story in Sonic the Hedgehog issue number 42. I was wondering like when it gets referenced, but I guess it gets passively referenced at some point. Uh, but yeah, this is the last game that Tails was voiced by his Adventure 1 VA.
My head is spinning.
My head is spinning. That one is from Heroes? That's the Heroes
I don't
voice actor.
remember. All I know is it's just it's a goofy voice line that doesn't play when it's supposed to. It plays at different things because the flagging's wrong.
Yeah. Okay. Now, do you want me to do the I'm giving you the choice for the last one. A Actually no. We actually went a lot through the comics. I might actually just skip the last comic one and just go straight off into the TV show one. So, I am about to tell you about okay. So, this is the character of Amon Rapi. He is an ancestor of Sonic from Sonic Underground.
So Sonic's Egyptian.
Don't worry about that part.
I'm worrying.
There is literally no information about this guy, but I will say one thing. Uh, Sonic has two other ancient Egyptian ancestors, which are from Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog, which is actually very funny because it's like, oh, I guess Sonic does have a lot of Egyptian ties. Why? Uh, but yeah, in early Sonic, like they kept trying to tie him back to Egyptian stuff, and not really sure why they did that. So yeah, so I want you to think about this. Okay, this is the plot of the episode that he's from. Okay,
Of
so
season one, he's the one who says, give up your children, lie in wait.
no. Amonrapi foretold the coming of Dr. Robotnik and inscribed a blueprint of how to defeat him on a scroll, which was placed in his tomb. Later, when the royal hedgehogs come looking for the scroll, Amonrapi's mummified minions mistook Sonic for Robotnik. Not sure how they would do that. After, eh, after the after the band granted his request for a song, he uses spell of immobility to freeze the invading enemies, allowing them enough time to escape. Unfortunately, the scroll was so old that was when it was removed from the tube, it crumbled to dust. However, he had left one message inscribed on the tomb in hieroglyph, which is the eternal phrase, "Hedgehogs will prevail."
Ducks rock.
Very dudes rock type of vibe to that sentence. But yeah, look at this guy's design. It's very stupid. It
I don't. Is it racist? Is it a racist caricature if it's so old it can't possibly be directed to modern Egyptian sentimentals?
okay. So I've always had the feeling that like whenever you depict Egyptian stuff, it has always been this sort of like Hammer movie monster level of not getting it. And in a way, I feel like that this depiction is a bit racist, but not in a malicious way, in just a we're taking a lot of the we're taking a lot of the symbolism and not using it properly. But yeah, Sonic Underground as a series is just I forgot that Sonic Underground was a French Canadian show. Ugh. Um, uh, I just don't. I just don't like Sonic Underground. I could totally understand someone just looking at it going, "What is this? Why is this?"
See,
So,
my question is, why are all the hedgehogs blue? Except for Manic and Sonia.
mm, that is actually a fair statement, but I think I would rather not think about that. The less I think about Sonic Underground, the best. Like, there is stuff to like about Sonic Underground, but I think
There is?
yeah, there are some interesting things to like about Sonic Underground. It is not well written. It's definitely not well drawn or animated, but you can tell that people on the team actually did try their best at this. They had like their hands tied behind their back and they had to draw using their face at times, but I I don't hate Sonic Underground. I just feel that Sonic Underground is the perfect level of cringe to make me never want to do like a whole watch through of the series.
I am scared of that because, oh god, Underground's bad.
But again, the worst part about Sonic Underground is actually like not actually the music. A lot of people think it's the music. Uh it's not. The worst part of Sonic Underground is how pedantic it is. Or that's not the word. That's the word I was thinking of. It's the entire show is mildly brain dead when it comes to the actual like plot sequences, but the actual like writing of it is not bad. It's just the fact that they have a 22-minute show with commercial breaks that half of the episode has to be devoted to music, and no one on staff knew how to write music. If I remember correctly, certain episodes were even reused music from earlier episodes. But yeah, I think that's good enough for like remedial Sonic lore.
I have learned a lot. Most of it is horrifying stuff that has vast implications about the Sonic world is horrendous. Don't live here. This is not happy fun time go fast. This is political backstabbing, horrid eldritch monstrosities, gods that are at most ambivalent and at worst actively sadistic.
Yeah, isn't it fun?
You know what we need? We need an RPG based on all this. Maybe where you're fighting like an army, and it could be about the history of the world. We could call it the Chronicles or something.
Uh, I did want to do stuff from Dark Brotherhood into this, but I have ranted about Dark Brotherhood so much that it would already just be stuff that I've talked about before. But yeah, I random little bits about Sonic lore like this are always very funny, where it's just like, oh my gosh. Uh, I can't remember if it's Sonic Shuffle or if it's another Sonic game. It's Sonic Labyrinth. It's Sonic
Ugh.
Labyrinth that has music in a worst video game music of all time playlist. It was like, what Sonic music's good? It was like, how could it be bad? It starts listening to it. It sounds like it was made in a tin can across the room. It's like, oh, ugh. But either way,
uh, I think the next thing we should talk about
hmm
in the next episode of this is not so much remedial lore as is we should discuss the differences between the Genesis and Sega Saturn versions of Sonic 3D Blast and why the Genesis is the vastly superior soundtrack.
all right. We'll see all y'all later. Goodbye.